gather round, here's what I know. It's just that this cow has got to go. I know some people kinda like it, yeah, it's trending right now. Yeah, that doesn't matter, cause we're gutting the sacred cow.
Hey everybody, how are you? Gootee, Kevin Israel, gutting the sacred cow episode. I don't know, but guess what, folks? You're going to get a bonus episode because it's that time of year where every shitty podcast and show does a recap show. But here's the difference between us and them. We're still going to give you a movie episode at the end of the week. Don't worry, we're not going to gyp you out of anything. In fact, I think we're going to let's do Ralph Sutton next week, taking down Avengers Endgame.
No, here you go. That's a good one.
Right? Kevin, how are you, pal? What's new with you?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Happy NYE. This is it.
Isn't it though? Right? Listen, we had a hell of a year. I dare say our highlights are the live show that hopefully happens next month. If you haven't got your tickets, go to guttingthesacredcow.com and get them and come see me, Kevin, Joanne, and Bill. And you can maybe meet Donna and Greg, my parents. And then we also have, of course, we hit top 15 on iTunes film reviews. Thank you all to have done it. If you have not yet done so, please, I know it sounds trite. I know I'm beating you to a death with this, but God damn it, it's worked. 5-star rating, 3-sentence review. It truly helps us. And of course, if you want to advertise with us, guttingthesacredcow@gmail.com. What we're going to do today is quite simple. Kevin and I have a bunch of different categories, and we're going to kind of quickly sort of go over each of them in a nutshell. The first category we're going to do, we'll just get into it. 5 guests of 2020 that convinced me somewhat to see their points and maybe have knocked a point off their score. In no particular order, I have mine here. I'm going to go one, you go one, we'll go back and forth. My first choice, but again, not overall, Gino Bisconti, Uncut Gems. Why? Because he woke the gambling dragon in me by reminding me that a 6-way parlay, that doesn't happen. And not only Sandler had the balls to do that once in this film, he fucking did it twice. Twice he did that film. I still like the film. I get the knocks against it. And I dare say that episode elicited the best belly laugh out of you and our guest when I pulled out the "you'd be dead if it wasn't for my son David" reference.
Always get me.
I got you both to go.
And that episode was brought to us by 1-800-GAMBLER.
Kevin, what was one of your guests that convinced you that the film they chose stinks?
Also, in no particular order, Mark Riccadonna with The Hangover.
Oh,
I went into that episode. I loved The Hangover, and after rewatch, now I will include a caveat to this.
Sure.
A lot of this kind of gutted itself because on rewatch, we're watching these movies, unfortunately, with a different eye than you do when you just watch it for enjoyment.
Right.
We're being a little more analytical. So watching this, I definitely started to see some of the flaws in it. And then Mark was so bitter about it. He was so angry about how bad.
Did he read for the role of Galifianakis and not?
Yeah, I feel like he had some personal stake in that movie, and he really did a job on it. And by the end of that episode, I was like, shit, this movie isn't what I remember it to be.
See, I agree with him from Jump Street that film is one of the most overrated of all time. In fact, I will be fair. I do save some of the films that kind of gutted themselves for other categories we have on. The 5 and 5 we have, I made sure I chose films that didn't gut themselves, that the guest had to earn me knocking a point off. With that said, I'll go to my number 2. And that is no surprise, and I'm sure no surprise to you, and you probably have on your list, and that's Dave Landau doing Good Will Hunting. I still like the film. I do. I had to drop it half a point of my score, as you've heard, because Dave is a master fucking gutter. He's on our Mount Rushmore with ease and one of our funniest guests. I love when he called out the fight between Damon's crew, asking when the dad says, give me the wrench, because fuck him. and the unlikelihood of that piece of shit car making it cross country. Landau is you've seen us on Twitter. I've fawned over him. He's so fucking funny in this on our show, and I love him. And he was great in Good Will Hunting.
My next episode is David the Producer with the Goonies.
Yes.
This was another one I went into remembering fondly, and the movie did gut itself some, but then David brought just the noise to this movie. He created a sensation amongst our fans, and some of my friends, I got angry text messages about the Goonies, and a lot of it was from people who didn't. Yeah, I mean, this movie really struck a chord with people of a certain age, and he just trashed that movie, and he made so many great points about how the movie just had no point to it, and it was he did. I mean, it was masterful. That's all I can say.
I have a point about him later on in one of our other categories, but I agree. Next one's going to be a surprise to you, I think, and that's English James doing The Dark Knight Rises, because he pulled out 2 monster points. He made the best one. He's saying the world's greatest detective can't figure out that Talia al Ghul is not who she says she is. And another myriad of problems he pointed out that I completely missed a couple on. I liked The Dark Knight Rises when I saw it, but this is another film that started to hang itself after multiple rewatches. But James had a lot of great points about The Dark Knight Rises, and I did drop it down, I think, a half a point as well.
That was a movie that I regretted disliking as much as I ended up disliking it.
Yeah, it hurts because I love the Nolan trilogy, but not to go, the first 2 are, it's like Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2, and then the third one, oh boy.
Sticking with the Batman theme, next up is Mike Price, Batman Returns.
Mm-hmm.
He destroyed that movie, and that was another movie I went into really with high hopes. I was looking forward to rewatching it, and Mike Price just shit all over the Bat, the Cat, and the Penguin. I mean,
the tagline. I remember that too. It was on the poster.
Yep. And he brutalized it, and he made so many great points about how just ridiculous and how it didn't really compare. So many people think that it was as good as the first Batman.
Oh God.
And it really, really wasn't. And it showed in his gutting, and it definitely brought a tear to my eye how much I ended up not liking that movie.
I'm very surprised because recently over Twitter, people were talking about, hey, Batman Returns is a Christmas film. And some asshole goes out and says, it's the best Batman film bar none. I go, stop, fucking stop. Don't even, it's better than, obviously, Batman v Superman. It's better than the 2 Schumacher ones. But don't give me that bullshit. It's not better than The Dark Knight or Batman Begins. Not even, of course, the first Batman. Or not even better than the 1966 TV film. No, I'm not buying that. That's laughable.
All you needed to see is the son doing the terrible walk-in impression.
I know. Dad, I'm trying to go out to the masses. And that's me doing my shitty walk-in yet again.
Got one.
I know, right? Number 4, I'm cheating a little bit because this episode has not come out yet, but Ralph Sutton doing Avengers Endgame will be a great tease. He yanked the shorts down on the time travel that takes place in this film. This film, Kevin and I love this film. Sorry, we'll spoil it for you. It's hard. I thought it would be impossible to knock my score down at any point because this is one of the best comic book films ever. It's got to be Dark Knight for me, 1, and this is maybe even 2 or even 1B in my book. I got to revisit. But he made me knock my score down half a point because of his argument. And again, this film is damn near flawless, I thought, but Ralph went in there and with surgical precision pointed out a few of the Wayne Knight Jurassic Park moments.
He did a very good job finding the weakness in a movie that was otherwise perfect.
Sure.
For me, the next one. So this is a movie that did gut itself, but the guest did. I mean, the movie was dead, and then the guest came in and just cut it open and shit in it. Zach and Napoleon Dynamite.
Right.
That movie I hated, and then listening to him just tear it apart made me hate it that much more.
Oh yeah.
And he made some points that I didn't think of, just to despise it. Like part of me still felt like maybe I was the dumb one because I didn't get it. when people said that they thought it was the funniest movie and they love it. And then after listening to him, I was like, no, you know what? They're the dumb people. I'm smart.
Shame on you for kowtowing to their fucking peer pressure. I know I'm smart. I know this film is retarded. And guess what? I just wanted somebody else to come in and reaffirm what we've said. Because believe it or not, when we posted this episode, some people took umbrage with that. And now I know to never invite them to my house for any kind of serious discussion, except maybe when watching football. Well, that's it. My last one in this category, maybe a surprise to you. Seth Everett doing Joker. Put a lot of points out on this film. Still liked it, but he made a lot of good points about Joker. Like, especially, God damn it, how many times we have to see the origin story with Batman again with the parents getting killed to go, you know what? True. Fair. I thought that was a good he did a good job.
That was. The last one I'm going to do, and purely because I couldn't really find another place to fit it in. And again, this was a movie that I started off not liking, and then the guest just made me feel completely vindicated. J.L. Covan and 2001. I came into that movie again, just thinking again that I was the wrong one. Right. So many people laud this movie, and you hear it's studied in classes, and it's talked about just as a classic science fiction piece. And it was so bad, and it ended, and I thought there was something wrong with me. That I just missed something. Like maybe there was a scene I missed or something. And when J.L. Covan came on and just tore it apart, it felt like when you have to take a shit all day and you finally sit down at the end of the day and take it, and it's so good. That's how I felt relieved.
Yeah, and it lingers for like 15 minutes after you're finished, done wiping and all that. That kind of good shit. Oh, I love those. This is my favorite. In fact, I think I have to.
Even when you're done and you stand up, you have to stand there for a minute just to let your body reset.
It's like blowing a great load. You're like, yeah. Giving it the nod.
Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
Yeah, don't ruin it. So very true. It also showed me that not that we didn't know this before, and especially on Twitter, our one of our super fans, I'll shout him out, Bango2331, who does the recaps for a lot of our episodes. He loves when we tear apart the goddamn shitty film critics who bloviate and try and seem so much smarter by using your favorite word, zeitgeist.
Ugh.
And he loves that. And that film is the epitome of people who want to seem smarter than they are. And JL is a snob like we are. I hated it when I saw it 20 years ago in college for the first time. And I sure as fuck hated it just as much as you. Actually, you hated it more than I did. I think you gave it a hero. It was terrible. Next category, 5 guests who did not stand a fucking chance in the world with their selections. This one I'm going to give you. Yeah, I'll give this to you in order. Number 1, my very good friend and producer of my show, Comics Watching Comics, Lynette Palladino doing Pulp Fiction. My second favorite film of all time. She showed up with a knife. I brought an armada and a nuke. No chance she stood trying to beat me on that one. No chance.
And I don't think she even hated it enough.
No.
To bring the proper weapons to bear for that one.
Yeah. I came out of that one with so much disdain and fervor for her argument. It was like I bottled up all that and brought it back out for when I did A Christmas Story.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
Thank you.
Speaking of A Christmas Story, she was the bully and you were Ralphie, just punching and punching. It was like, all right, dude, it's enough.
I know that's a compliment. Don't ever associate me with A Christmas Story ever again, unless you're speaking about me shitting on this overrated turd. Thank you.
For the record, in this category, I was going to say Pulp Fiction, but I knew you would say it, so I left it.
Fair. I know. I think I know your first one's going to be. I'm going to take I think it's an easy one for me to guess, and that's going to be my number 2. But I'm sure it's your number 1. So if so, I'm wrong. That's fine. The STST gang doing Point Break. Boom.
Yes. Listen, I love those guys.
Sure do.
Those guys help us out. They're super supporters. They're really great guys. They have a fun podcast, but the truth is they picked a movie that as a guy from the 80s, you can't hate this movie. Are there problems with it? 100%. And those problems make it all the much better.
Yeah.
Everything about that movie is fantastic. It's incredibly rewatchable. I don't think there's a scene in that movie that I wouldn't stop to watch.
No, because not just the other day, I walked in and my wife was flipping around and put it on, and it was the scene where he's chasing Swayze down and fires his gun in the air. No! I'm like, well, sit right down. Here we go again.
That beach football scene is what Top Gun was trying to do with the volleyball scene, but it just ended up being oddly homoerotic.
Right. Yeah. And how are you going to besmirch the film that quoting meatball subs made a thing? No chance.
True.
Number 3 for me, I know you hate this, but I don't care. Kent Garrison doing Ace Ventura. Ken said he liked it as a youth. Well, Ken still has no idea that film is still a fucking riot and needs to realize that early Jim Carrey is the gold standard for comedic actors. Early Jim Carrey. Gold standard. After Me, Myself, and Irene, goodbye, Jim. But before that, nothing but platinum, baby. But he ran into a buzzsaw on that one with me.
Well, I will see yours, and I will raise you one that you're going to disagree with me on.
Okay.
It's our good friend Jeff Paul doing Spaceballs.
I want to say I love you. That's disqualified. That was last year, not 2020.
Oh, shit!
Nice try. I knew you'd play that card.
Shit, that's right.
Because there are a few people, believe me, there are a few people from 2019. I was going to go, oh, you're dead. You're dead. Because believe
fine,
me.
but I still want to say fuck you, Jeff Paul.
I'll say fuck you, Jeff Paul, too. Just
all right, then I'll move on to my next one. I had an
Sure.
extra in this category anyway. Was Starship Troopers with Al.
Number 5.
Starship Troopers is just a fantastic movie that exists in the camp that it creates. It's the movie owns what it is. There's a message behind it. There's a purpose behind it. There's satire. It's everything he argued that he didn't like about it was everything that makes the movie great.
Right.
And that's also a movie. There's so many great scenes. The battles are great. Just literally almost every scene in that movie is fantastic. The whole training set, when the guy gets shot accidentally or when he throws the knife through his hand to make the point. There's so many great moments in that movie and so many ridiculous characters. And the characters, by the way, are very one-dimensional, but they're so one-dimensional, and it's on purpose. It's just a fantastic movie, and he didn't stand a chance in my mind.
You're not going to topple this fun and booby-filled romp for me, especially you're not going to talk shit about Paul Verhoeven unless it's about Showgirls, then talk away. But other than that, he's a fucking god in my book. Since he took that one from me, I'm going to go with my 4th one. I don't know about you on this one, but I know I was definitely saying guns out like John Wick. Matt actually doing The Usual Suspects. Boy,
damn it.
I knew it. Matt thought this film cheats with the reveal. Fine, I'll concede you that. But the other 100 minutes of this film with fantastic characters and multifaceted dimensional characters and memorable dialogue wipe out his main argument by a landslide. I love Usual Suspects.
Yep.
He tried, and listen, Matt actually, probably him and Bill McCuddy, the 2 biggest experts in the film industry we've had on this. Ironically, they're both.
This isn't a criticize their gutting.
No, they're both good.
This is just that that we like these movies so much that they were climbing up a huge mountain. The best thing I can say about this movie is that it does everything that why am I suddenly blanking on the Sixth Sense wanted to do.
Sure.
Sixth Sense had a twist that was fun in the first time, and we've said it's a one-trick pony. And Usual Suspects is great on rewatch, and it's great to dissect it and see all the nuance of it, and it holds up after rewatch, which Sixth Sense does it, and Usual Suspects is just a fantastic classic film that is timeless and has aged magnificently.
Couldn't agree more. It's in my top 10 for a reason. Love it. All right, so we're just going to next category, the 3 best guttings, which include the movie can gut itself, because I wanted to separate the 2 categories. Now, unfortunately, but fortunately, you've done 2 of my 3. I also selected Mark Riccadonna doing Hangover. He showed up with 3 or 4 pages of notes while in a questionable state, yet still masterfully shit on the Vegas quadruple bachelor party, which one of the most overrated films of all time in my book. I completely agree. The other one you mentioned, the aforementioned David, the producer, doing the Goonies. This decimated everyone, every kid of the 80s, like you had just said. And I say, and you kind of mentioned this as well, this opened the door to the masses for our podcast for people. They're like, wait, what? What are these guys doing? What the fuck is this about them shitting on the Goonies? This is the catalyst for our podcast, I say, is the David the Brewster episode. And number 3, Joanne Nosachinsky doing Grease. You mean a musical theater nerd hates the Bible of musicals? Oh, sign me up, you beautiful brunette, you. Oh, she was lovely, and she did a masterful job in that episode, as well as Silver Linings Playbook. But I loved her taking on Grease with such disdain and just
it was beautiful.
Angst and hatred. I was like, yes.
And it was like a fine wine of hatred because she has lived that life.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Well, you would almost think we do this podcast together because I think our lists are going to be very reflective of one another.
I'm sure.
My first was David, the producer, with the Goonies. Everything we've already said and more. David is a scholar, a gentleman, and a brilliant guest. Number 2 was Dave Landau in Philadelphia.
Right on.
Holy shit. I didn't know Dave as well as you did when we entered that show. He, first of all, the gutting was just expert, but he was hysterical. That was definitely one of our funniest episodes.
Easily.
And he picked such a delicate, sensitive, passionate movie that people, and I'd never seen, that was one of the movies that I'd never seen until we had to watch it for this. And he ripped it apart, and it was beautiful, awe-inspiring to watch.
Of course.
And also, I had Joanne with Grease, getting to see somebody who's been in that life and auditioned for musicals and been in musicals, just tear apart the Mount Rushmore of musicals was amazing. And I have an honorable mention, if you'll allow me.
I'll allow it. Sustained.
Our own Kevin Gootee with A Christmas Story.
Thank you.
I entered that episode, our last episode, which or 2 episodes ago actually, which is doing very well, especially seeing it's the Christmas season. So kudos to you, Kevin.
Thank you.
But I entered this very ambivalent about the movie, but the pure rage and fury was like watching the Hulk. It was like watching Banner turn into the Hulk. It was amazing. Like I always wondered when I'd watch the cartoons or the TV show, like, why do people sit there while he's turning in? Run.
Yeah.
Like the minute you see his clothing ripping open, you got to think something bad's going to happen. And you know what? Something bad happened that episode, and it was awesome to watch.
Thank you for the compliment, and I completely agree with that statement. You know how, I'll pat myself on the back yet again. You know how I did a good job? Because I didn't get, and you see the comments too, you're in all the Twitter and all the accounts, no one wrote on there, fuck you, you're wrong.
Yeah.
No one.
Which, you know what, and I'll give you credit for that, but I also think it uncovered a secret little sentiment among the populace that people actually don't like that movie.
Or I made enough good points to go, God, he's right.
Yep.
I think listen, you can still like it. I think you're dumb, but you can still like it. That's fine. Your prerogative. But at least I made enough points for you to go, there's a lot of kryptonite here. Thank you.
Yep.
I'll take that. Okay, those are the 3. The 3 films we had the highest hopes for, but were ruined with rewatches. You already got one of them, and that, of course, the easiest one, Batman Returns with Mike Price, who, again, masterful, artful, surgeon-like precision job he did. I loved as a teenager. I know you did too. I was very shocked it did not hold up. The next one, Fast Times at Ridgemont High with Bill McCuddy.
Ooh,
I remember. Thank you. I love the first half is gold, still is gold, but I did not know. I don't remember how it did such an about face for that second half. That second half was pure. That was like running with fucking boots filled with mud and quicksand. That second, and it's only an hour and a half film, but it just drags.
Yeah. Well, once it gets into the moral.
Yeah,
Once it gets into the idea of friendship and people trusting,
morality.
the whole sentiment. It was fun when it was just a fun high school romp with boobs. That was fun. And then
And
the
getting,
movie just suddenly becomes an after-school special, and you're like, "What the? This isn't what I wanted to watch."
yeah, I don't want to see the bike owner trying to molest Willis and Arnold in that fucking bike shop. I don't want to see them at the abortion clinic. I don't want to see them on a goddamn field trip to the hospital morgue or whatever it was.
Right?
The fuck
Even when
is that?
Spicoli had that moment with the teacher.
Yeah,
What is this,
Mr. Hand.
Yeah.
I didn't mind that. No, I didn't mind that ending because it's kind of like, okay, full circle. I like that part. But the 45 minutes, you can't. We've talked about it before, and that's why we should on some of these guests' point. You can't go from one like either you're in Camp Believable, like Pineapple Express we just did with Sarah J. You can't go from this is a believable concept to go into pure batshit crazy off the wall nonsense. Like Avengers, you check those fucking everything at the standards not standards. You check your beliefs at the door and you go in, and 3 hours later you're like, yep, shit blew up and it was great. But that film, perfect example. Like, wait, what is this? This is a comedy? Am I getting lectured? Am I supposed to feel? But fuck that. The third one, last and not least, and I'd be goddamned if I couldn't get this. I had to get him in this episode. Anthony Cumia doing Face Off. This film drags. It's an action film. This is right up our alley, for Christ's sakes. And it's full of holes. I think the favorite line Anthony gave was like, wait a minute, you mean that the minute that Joan Allen sees John Travolta naked and sees another dick that she's not used to, doesn't throw a fucking, doesn't throw her for a loop? That's not going to send off an alarm bell? Cumia was so great in that episode, and he will be back in January. We think January. We're working on it right now, believe me. But Anthony Cumia, the last one for Face Off.
Again, I guess we do this podcast together.
Right.
My number one was Batman Returns. Everything you said, James was masterful with it.
Mike Price.
Number two was Face Off with Anthony. I was excited to rewatch that movie. I was looking forward to it. Some of these movies we do, it's like a slog. Like, I gotta watch this, and I just procrastinate until I finally watch it.
Right.
And I went into that. I made my wife watch it with me. I was like, this is gonna be great. She's like, this is a terrible movie. I was like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And then by the end of that movie, I was like, oh my god.
Oh.
And then Anthony just relentlessly tore it apart because it is so bad, and Nick Cage and John Travolta are just so ridiculous in it.
I'm hoping.
And then my third one that I
hope Anthony, when he comes back, picks another John Travolta film so we can have his impression yet again.
Luckily, he does a lot of impressions. So
yes, he does. Or Dice. I hope he does Ford Fairlane, which would not qualify, but
no. But if he wants to do it, we'll let him.
Yeah.
Third one is my last pick was X-Men with Task.
Yeah.
I
debate about that.
We've said it before. That was kind of the more modern movie that set off the whole superhero craze, besides Blade. That I remember loving that movie. I loved it. I had goosebumps watching that entire movie. And on rewatch, holy shit, did that not hold up?
No.
Not only does it not hold up, it's bad.
Very.
It's bad. The plot is ridiculous. It's nonsensical, especially with as much story as they had to work with from the comic books. There were so many options. They put together this ridiculous story. The characters were all just kind of caricatures of the actual comic book characters, which they already had great characters to work with, other than Professor X. Professor Patrick Stewart did a flawless job as Professor X every time.
Right.
But everything that was working around him was just batshit crazy. And I'll forgive a little of it just because it was one of the first shots at a big budget superhero movie that they were really trying to take the whole movie mainstream, the whole movement mainstream. But fuck, that movie doesn't hold up. And it's so sad because I love the X-Men.
It's so funny. You hit one of the points is that the actors selected, some were like grand slams. Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, and Jackman were just grand slams. But everyone else was just an absolute swinging like Bugs Bunny did. He screwed himself into the ground swinging at strike three when he played against
they got Halle, because Halle Berry was hot at that time.
She still is hot.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Not just in pictures.
Yeah.
She was a name at that time. She was doing a lot of big movies, so they definitely were excited to have her tied to it. And they gave her a terrible character to work with. And not that Storm is a bad character, but the character they wrote for her was terrible. She had the worst piece of dialogue with what happens when a toad gets hit by electricity. Yeah. It was just bad. And it hurt to watch.
I'll let you go first. What was the one film that was gutted, but we will never stop loving?
Independence Day.
See, I think that film sucks, but I okay. All right.
I love Independence.
I know you do.
And I know you don't. But Jesus Christ, I love that movie. I could almost quote the entire movie. And I agreed with a lot of what Bill said. And it is just an over-the-top schlocky movie. It's ridiculous with tons of stereotypes. And it was just fantastic. I feel like it embodies that early 2000s so perfectly. Like we were still kind of in the unwoke moment of the 90s.
Pure bliss.
Yeah.
It was 97, if I recall, right?
Whatever you want. But we were slowly moving into the modern era of big, huge blockbuster movies. Nobody can do wrong to that movie for me.
Here's one that may surprise you. I love when Ray Stacanis did Transformers. He made a shitload of good points and stood proudly atop that hill, but then was blown off by Optimus Prime's rifle by us. No one's going to shit on my leader. Yeah, Autobots transform and roll out. All over his fucking corpse.
Optimus Prime's rifle, by the way, one of the coolest sounding weapons in cartoon history.
You know what? I'll take Megatron's blast gun over the
really?
I will. It's more memorable, I think.
Really?
It's great. Don't get
sound effects guys so they can put in sound effects to all of this.
Yeah, hey guys, we need a budget for this great podcast.
We have a lot of cool stuff we want to do for you.
Yeah. Funniest guests. I'm going to cop out and be a pussy. I have a tie. Surprise. Dave Landau, no surprise. Maybe surprise for this one listening. Bill Schultz. Love that scamp, as he loves to call everybody. You flip a coin. I can't decide. Bill's been on 3 times. Dave's been on twice. They're both insanely funny. The crowd loves them, and it's just a never miss with those two guys. It's always my wife goes, "Oh, who's on the podcast tonight?" I was telling her. She's like, "Oh, how do you feel?" I go, "I'm not excited." Like I was like, "Oh, we got Landau," or "Oh, Bill's on," or "Oh, Joanne's on." Like I didn't have that moment, but that's when you know you got a special guest is when one of those characters are on. But
solid pick, and I am going to puss out too because I also had a tie.
Who'd you have?
Dave Landau and Gino Bisconti.
Yeah, okay.
Gino had me pissing. Yeah. And mostly because he has, I think, just the entire country of Bolivia and cocaine running through him. And he just didn't stop. He talked over us, through us, around us, and he just kept going until we finally said, "We're done now."
we were all camera for a good half hour, 45. I'm like, thank God. And that's why I made him the last guest, because I knew that would happen.
And I know that, and you know what? Unfortunately, fine listener, dedicated, loyal listener, Kevin Gootee had to edit so much of Gino's just mastery out. And hopefully someday, when we don't have to worry about other lives, we can play that whole episode unedited.
Guess what? It's gone. Because we're not big enough to get YouTube banned yet. I have, okay, next one. And the last of the categories. Most profound gutting. I'm going to throw you a curveball. You ready? Hmm? Jim Mendrinos doing Inception.
Wow.
How profound. I love how he made 2 monster points that just stuck with me. He says, this film, he goes, how did this film start out? And I go, he goes, exactly. You know how it started out? As a bank heist. Then what happens? Everything else but a bank heist. And he goes, I can also explain to you how time travel works in Back to the Future. I can explain how the Matrix works, but I cannot explain to you Inception. But after 2.5 hours, I should be able to. Shouldn't I? And I said, bingo. And that was another, I think that was the first film that for me, where I was texting you, I go, it's going to be Inception. I'm like, fuck him. This film's great. And then after rewatch, I go, oh boy, it ain't.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, so you know what? I think, and again, it's kind of the curse of this podcast. When you have to watch a movie with a bit of a more critical eye, when you're being a little more analytical about a movie, you suddenly can't forgive a lot of its imperfections.
Right.
When there's a movie like that has so many, or at least one that just keeps happening over and over again, it really, really magnifies its impact on you. And that movie was that they set up this whole premise, and then like Jim said, they never even tried to explain what was happening or why this existed.
It's like when someone says, pull my finger, and instead of hearing you hear a like, I want to fart. I don't want to queef. Well, it depends who it's coming from.
I know what you've been up to.
How about you? What was your most profound gutter on the show?
I had to go with the easy, obvious one. John Fuel sang "Gone with the Wind."
I knew it. I knew it.
And John's a comedian. He did not bring a lot of comedy this episode. He brought a very thought out, intelligent, historic perspective on this classic movie that is horribly racist. And even taking apart the fact that it's a historical piece and that racism existed then, so if you were going to make a movie about that time, you just can't ignore the fact it still came across ridiculously racist, ridiculously over the top. It had an intermission. He brought just so many levels of intelligence and thoughtfulness to that gutting that it really blew me away. I don't remember how much I said, but I definitely didn't say a lot during that episode because he came loaded for bear.
I'm saying I was watching. Listen, I'll separate myself from the time with the racism. Forget all that. It's a fucking boring film. Beautifully shot, especially for 1939. But fucking boring as all hell. Didn't care about the characters. Go back and listen to that episode. That's a great one. Thoughts for the future. Well, here are my thoughts. Look, we're expanding our horizons. We've had porn stars on, podcasters, comics, film critics, comic book writers, you name it, Twitter influencers. We are looking to this is what we're looking for. These are our goals. Definitely looking forward to building up our audience even more, which we've done a pretty good job for a year and change out of the gate, to a big enough audience so Kevin and I can come on the road and do the live show all over the country. That's right. We want to come to your city, watch a film with you, and do an episode right then and there on the spot. So that way we can quit corporate America. How about that? What else do I want? Here are some of the films I want to see people have the balls to try and take on, because people always ask you, well, why don't you do this? We don't pick the fucking films. We've said this ad nauseum. The guests pick the films. If any of you pussies have the balls to try and do Caddyshack, Goodfellas, LA Confidential, Naked Gun, Dark Knight, Casino, Godfather 1, Die Hard, E.T., Jaws, Aliens, Matrix, Untouchables, Back to the Future, or Toy Story 1 through 3, we fucking dare you. But don't be some random slapdick on the internet. No, we're not going to have you. We need people who are funny, goddammit, and have personalities. We love all your fans. Yeah. We need a little skill. Those are our goals. Like, that's what we're just trying to do, is keep having you do, like, the fans do our dirty work for us, and that's spreading the word, the gospel, which a lot of you have done a great job with. But just finding more of you who are, huge fans of the show, like the Bangos of the world who does the recaps,
yep,
and the Becky, Happy Go Becky on Twitter, who will just retweet us and ask movie questions on other people's threads, like stuff like that. That's what helps get the word out. And if you know people who want to be guests on the show, hell, if you have any comics that you really love, or podcasters, or people you follow on Twitter or Instagram that are huge that you think would be great in the show, fucking reach out to us. We've got Mo Mandel coming out in 2 weeks doing Under Siege. Fan suggested, we hit him up, boom, here he is. So that's how these things happen. And it's great. It'll be out in 2 weeks, like I had said, 2 or 3 weeks. We have that one, we have Avengers, and we have, damn it, I'm missing the other one we've done. Anchorman's in the wings too. So, Kevin, what about you? What goals or what thoughts for the future do you have?
This podcast, and I give KG a lot of credit. It's a fantastic idea that caught on. To quote a movie, which I think is appropriate for this podcast, if you build it, they will come, and they are coming. They are coming. It took a little while. It took us to get up speed, get to figure ourselves out, to get our bearings. but it's a solid product. It's people like it. Every guest we've had on, from the biggest to the smallest, say that this is a great idea. This is different. It's unique. It's well thought out, and it's proportioned well. I'm so proud of what we do, and I appreciate Kevin reaching out to me, or actually I reached out to him, and putting this all together, because it's awesome and it's a blast to do, and I think we're just going to keep growing. My thoughts for the future are exactly what you said: increase our fan base. I love seeing when fans tweet at us about specific things from the podcast, and the loyal love of getting what we're doing. And it's not necessarily about us. It's not about what Kev does or what I do. It's about the guests that come on, the movies, and just the whole culture that we've created. And I think the sky's the limit. We're just going to keep doing it. And if you guys like it, and if you guys are enjoying it, like KG said, spread the word for us. Help us out. Get people to write reviews, and you know what? We'll be in your backyard sometime, and you'll be able to come see us and be part of the fun and hilarity.
Ain't that the goddamn truth? Make sure you go to guttingthesacredcow.com every day for articles and such. Oh, we forgot one thing. We also want to thank all the dumb dildos who are on Amazon and write those 1-star reviews. By far, the most favorite segment we do. Katie Cohen says that'll be our legacy, are the Amazon 1-star reviews. Thank you you're right, Katie, it will be. Thank you for all the dumb people who think your opinions are well thought out and quasi-intelligible. They're not, but man, they make great fodder for this podcast. And shit, we can't thank you enough for being so dopey.
Absolutely. Don't ever think you shouldn't write something on the internet, because there's someone out there who wants to make fun of you.
It's us. I can't sound more condescending, but man, some of you people just stay away from. Pretend you're Amish, okay? That's.
No, don't listen to him. Keep writing your fucking craziness. Keep being offended by the $2.99 charges on Amazon, and by somebody saying shit once at the end of a movie and being horrified. It's fantastic. We love seeing how dopey the population is, and spreading the word to the rest of our audience.
Do us a favor. When you're in your daily routine of your lives, try and shoehorn the word zeitgeist into conversation and see where that gets you.
Someday I'm going to kick down your door and spit in your face.
Hopefully when you have COVID. This has been a riot. It's a nice little one-on. We haven't done like a one-on-one since John Guild sat in the one conversation with John from the studio. We haven't done a one-on-one in a while. This is fun. Maybe we'll do one during the year that's not a year-end count-up. But we're going to do something for you guys. Like, what the fuck kind of bonus show? We thought this was going to go, half an hour. It's now gone damn near an hour, so you're welcome. GuttingTheSacredCow.com. Get yourselves tickets for the live show, for Christ's sakes. Come see Bill. Come see Joanne. Come see us. Grab a shirt. Grab a bag. Grab a mug, all on the website, guttingthesacredcow.com. KevinGoatee.com, at Kevin Goatee, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. Kevin Israel, the world can find you at
KevinIsrael.com. Comedy was coming back. Now it's not. Maybe it will again. Who knows? My album, The Struggle Is Real, is available everywhere. And guys, listen, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for helping us spread the word. Keep doing it. And I can promise you one thing. 2021 can't possibly be worse.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get to see a new film in the theater.
Ooh, that'd be exciting.
All right. Kevin Goatee, Kevin Israel, we love you guys. Get ready for this week's episode coming out very soon, which will be Ralph Sutton trying to take on Avengers Endgame. We love you all. Thank you so much. Happy 2020.